Welcome to the 2025 BMW 550e plug-in hybrid. It's not new for 2025. BMW did a pretty significant do-over on the 5 Series for 2024, and there's a few videos already up about that. So let's focus on this 550e. So powering the 550e is a 3-liter inline 6. There's a 19 kilowatt per hour battery producing up to 55 kilometers of all-electric range. It runs off an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it is all-wheel drive. Interestingly, compared to the previous plug-in hybrid version of the 5 Series, that got 292 horsepower, 420 pound-feet of torque, and here we have 483 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque. The old battery was a 12 kilowatt per hour one, and that only got 31 kilometers of range. So it hasn't quite doubled, going from 31 to 55, but it is significantly higher and more adept to the real world. And BMW says you can go up to 140 kilometers per hour in all electric mode. So I don't think you should be going 140 anywhere anyway, but just letting you know what BMW has shared off of their website and their press release. Quick touch on charging. So you can do it in just a little under 4 hours through a 6.6 kilowatt charger. And that's given to you as part of your purchase, lease, or finance of the 550e. Now let's quickly touch on how it drives, because that's kind of a big differentiator versus the non-plug-in hybrid, which would be the 530. So here, having all this power, it's kind of wild. And I don't know where you'd actually use this to open up, but in typical 5 Series fashion, it is such a smooth and serene drive, and it is quiet and it is comfortable. And since it's a sedan, you get the lower center of gravity, and your driving dynamics are amplified that much more. And yes, twists and turns are done extremely well, and you're planted and you always have that flat feeling. And again, thank you, center of gravity, for being so low here. And straight line driving is also done extremely well. No issues in getting up to speed on the highway. Big part of that, 516 pound-feet of torque, which is just wild. Now, as a note of comparison, the new Infiniti QX80, their biggest offering, runs off 450 horsepower and the 516 pound-feet of torque. And the Armada, which is Nissan's biggest offering, runs off 425 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque as well. Same engine, just slightly different tuned. So just comparing a massive 3-row full-size SUV to a mid-size sedan, like, there is so much power here. And just going as a quick comparison versus the 530, that runs off a 2-liter turbo 4 with a mild hybrid, 255 horse, 295 pound-feet of torque. So not quite double the power here in the 550 versus the 530, but it is a significant jump. And we'll get into more of that as we go through the value proposition here between the 550 and the 530. As with a lot of the new BMWs, it's running off BMW's curved screen display, 12.3 for the cluster, 14.9 for the infotainment system. Still very easy to reach, so if you don't want to use the iDrive controller, you can just reach out and use the touchscreen itself. There's my ring touching the top of the screen, so very easy. I'm not lurching forward, I'm not kind of contouring myself to get to the infotainment screen, and everything's laid out pretty well, no issues there at all. I'm still not used to the only touch screen for the HVAC controls. It is winter, it's minus 14 degrees right now when I'm recording this, and thankfully the system works pretty well with gloves on. I've got big chunky gloves. Let's touch on fuel consumption between the 530 and 550, because there's a pretty significant difference. So with the 530, which is the, again, 2-liter turbo 4 gasoline only, in liters per 100 kilometers, combined figures are 7.9 liters per 100 kilometers. Now here in the 550, it's 9.6, and you get the 3.5 liters equivalent. And a couple of numbers to go with that. So the 530 weighs 4,158 pounds, and this 550 comes in at 4,916, a difference of 758 pounds. So what it comes down to, if you are considering the plug-in hybrid versus the gasoline version, it's not just the power side of things where the 530 is significantly lower. It's going to come down to fuel consumption as well, and I don't think it will be on the top of anyone's list, but I think it will be on some people's list as well. And again, up to 55 kilometers of all electric range. And the offset for that, despite the price being $13,000 more, is you can wake up every morning, if you remember to charge this, with a full battery. And again, it's just a little under 4 hours to charge. There's a home charging set as well. So yes, I know the 530 gets better fuel consumption off the top, but you can really take advantage of that liters equivalent and the full electric range of the 550 by making sure it's charged every morning or whenever you start your day. Wrapping up on the consumption / driving side is distance to empty. So with the 530, you can get up to 759 kilometers, and that's just dividing 60 liters for the tank by 7.9 for the liters per 100 kilometers. And over here on the 550 side, you can go 628 kilometers on the gasoline only side, and again, the 55 kilometers. So little advantage there for the 530 if fuel consumption is a strong driver for you. You know, you like the 5 Series, you like what it does, you like how it drives, and you like the feel of it. But if you want the lower consumption and lower power, then absolutely the 530 is the way to go. If you are interested in having the electric side included in your driving, then the 550e is definitely the way to go for that. So it really just comes down to priorities and what you're looking for. Now, let's quickly dip into the pricing side of things. So MSRP for the 530, $71,200. MSRP here, $84,200. So we got a $13,000 gap between the two. And it's a little tricky because usually when we're comparing vehicles here, it's the same model and you're just going up the trim ladder, so you're getting fancier bits and pieces. But here it's a completely different engine, it's a different powertrain. And for me, I would go with the 550. And it's not for the massive jump and bump in power. Sure, that's nice and good and great and all, because I'm not quite ready to go fully electric, but I do want an electric component to a car that I have if I was looking to buy a new car, specifically a luxury mid-size sedan. And the battery range versus real-world driving holds up pretty well. Got the vehicle, had it 55 kilometers in the battery, and it was fully charged, and I did my regular driving, and I got, I think, 53 kilometers. So I know sometimes it can be a wild difference where, you know, you may only get 70, 75% off whatever the battery says as far as range goes. But here, even in a Canadian winter in December, the 550 held up pretty well. And it's not always going to be like that. Now, yes, I had my heated seat on, my heated steering wheel on, I had the audio on, I had my HVAC on, but it still held up well, and individual results will vary. But for the week I've had it, it's pretty much been within 2 or 3 kilometers of what it says on the screen versus what I've actually gotten through the actual driving experiences. One last thing to think about if you are looking for a mid-size sedan from BMW, there's the i540, which is the lower power variant of their full EV 5 Series, with the M60 being the high end. And pricing for that's $83,700. So it's very, very close to what this is at $84,200. So you can either get the lower output version of BMW's i5, and the range for that is 428 kilometers, or you can get the higher version of their gasoline / plug-in hybrid. Personally, again, I'm not ready to do the full transition to EV yet. Nothing's wrong with EVs. I don't have anything against them personally. I'm not, pro-petrol, and I'm not, anti-EV. Just where I am personally in my life, I like to have the alternative of both. But again, if you are looking in this price range and maybe you're not sure if you are ready to go EV, or you are, or there's so many different factors, but know that the 550e and the i540 are extremely close in price. If you are looking in the luxury mid-size sedan segment, other ones to consider are the Audi A6, Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and the Genesis G80. that's going to wrap it up for the 2025 BMW 550e. I hope the video has been helpful and informative, and if you are in your research phase, I hope that this definitely helps you out. If you have any comments or questions on what you've seen here, let me know in the comments. I'm always happy to engage in respectful conversation. I encourage you and invite you to join our social media platforms. We are on all of the major ones. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.